Thank you. Ma'am, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Is this on?
I believe so.
Okay. Thank you very much for listening to the testimonies and for being attentive to everything people have said. I unfortunately I also had 3 abortions, as many of these women who have just gone recently, and I regret that tremendously. I firstly think of my 5 living children who range in age from 13 to 24, with whom I had many conversations about the 3 abortions that I had when I was very, very young and very ignorant about the development of the baby in the womb, ignorant of my faith. I was being raised in a Catholic home, but it was very much sort of pick and choose the particular beliefs and truths. And one of the worst things after having the realization of just what I had allowed to happen to those unborn babies was the effect that has on my living children, being essentially survivors of this abortion age. And my youngest child, who's now 13, I told her when she was 4. It wasn't my plan to tell my children when they were so young, but I was going on a retreat for the first time in my life, to Rachel's Vineyard retreat, and Mom was not going to be home for the weekend, so I had to prepare my children as to why I was doing that. And so I sat with them and told them, and my son, who was 15 at the time, was very loving and very forgiving, very kind, and he said to me, "Mom, I love you and I forgive you, and you are not the woman that you were then. And there isn't anything you could do that would make me stop loving you." And then I spoke to my oldest daughter, Amelia. Very difficult to tell her. And she also was very loving and forgiving. She said that she sort of knew, because of the times that she would see me go off in tears, go into the bathroom and grieve, and the way that I spoke of the value and the dignity of not only their lives, but every human life. Then I spoke to my next 2 daughters, and the same thing, with tears, but with great love and forgiveness. They also said, "Mom, we love you, we forgive you." And this was amazing to me, because I expected them to look at me and think, "What a monster. I'm so afraid now. I've only known my mom to be pro-life all of my life, and now she's telling me this." And then my youngest, who was 4. And when I told her, I thought, she's not going to understand, but I have to let her know in some way, in the language in which she could understand. And so I did tell her, when a baby is in the mother's belly, and we have this law that allows for moms to, and she immediately, without me going into great explanation, when I told her that it is allowed that those moms can have that baby be essentially killed, she began to cry. 4. I know that she understood. Now, maybe it sounds terrible and inappropriate, and how could you do that? I felt I needed to do that because one of the most important things that I know as my personal history, but also with many of the women that I have helped on the Rachel's Vineyard retreat as a team member, is that part of that reconciliation is the acknowledgement of truth. And when a 4-year-old can acknowledge the wrongness of ending a baby's life in the womb, I simply can't understand how we can continue to deny that when children now are telling us, and this wonderful series of testimony that many young people have given. But this is my daughter who's 4, who just turned 13 this past Sunday. And she acknowledged that as a 4-year-old. And it further solidified for me the need for reconciliation. And that means looking at the truth of this. You could say that people are no longer using the euphemisms, the untruths, right? But we have a bill before us in this state, reproductive rights. There's no mention in there about self-control, the bodily autonomy that you already have. You know, we don't talk about those things. I certainly talk about those things with my children and with my family and with neighbors and fellow parishioners and people that I know that I don't share the same faith with, but we can definitely recognize objective truth. That we have in common. But I've seen how we just continue to deny that objective truth over and over and over again. And I'm sad for them. I want to have them experience the joy of the turnaround. You know, I think of the bad laws that were on the books that were overturned. People have mentioned certainly slavery, certainly in Germany when it was legal to be exterminating Jews.
Ma'am,
Imagine
I'm
the
sorry to
joy
interrupt,
people
but
felt.
could I ask you to start
Yes,
wrapping up
I
based
will.
on time? Thank you.
Imagine the joy of the recognition once you've changed your hearts and minds and you now know the truth. I want my children to know that that's what's most important, is the truth and living that. So please, I beg you to really consider sticking with the truth and the dignity of all human beings, born and unborn. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for this witness?